Well, alright. Here we are at 6:30 a.m. on Sunday, May 30th. I was digging around in my old video files looking for the one I made about the nature of the cosmos as I saw it at the time. Geocentric model. I was looking specifically for how big I said the cosmos was. I made a reference in one of the previous videos here on my statement of faith that the cosmos was, I said something like 10 billion or something miles across. I could not remember. And looking it up in the video when I found it, it was, I said I had extrapolated based on the orbits of the planets, the orbital periods of the planets, and their distances from the sun. I extrapolated how far away the field of stars would be given the rotation of the precessional cycle, and I came to the conclusion that it was somewhere, I said, between 70 and 120 billion miles from the sun. I also I saw in a paper, one of these notepad documents I came across, said it was something like 200 times the distance the Earth is from the sun. In the video I think I said 20 times the distance of Neptune from the sun. Anyway, so I found a bunch of these old files from back then, and I came across another notepad document that I had typed up here, entitled The Statement of the Faith of Torrefaction in 48 Axioms, also known as the opposite of what everyone else believes. And I had basically completely forgotten that I ever even called it torrefaction. It's before I called it Timaeanism. Torrefaction is an alchemical process. Basically, it has to do with refining metal, or refining gold. And it's a slow burning away, a process of burning away the negative, what you do not want. And I called it torrefaction because it's basically what he does to our soul here on earth. But torrefaction is a process. It is not a religion. It's like it's a verb. Torrefaction is a process. It's equivalent to justification. torrefaction is like justification. It is a process. It's a thing that is done to something else. It's not a religion. You can't say it's the faith of torrefaction or the religion of torrefaction. So I changed the name to Timaeanism because that's an actual name you can use to apply to something. But I had forgotten I had ever typed this up. And reading over it, I like what I had said. Maybe I can add some more things to it. But I remember doing that now, trying to distill my belief system into these axiomatic statements, which are axioms are meant to be very simple. These aren't really axioms. They're too, I don't know, they may be a little bit too wordy to be axioms. Axioms are meant to be very simple things, statements that cannot be broken down any further. Kind of like the grass is green kind of statements. But anyway, that's what I call them here, 48 axioms. Okay, so I thought I would go ahead and make another video and just read through the list. So we have part 1, the axioms of the nature of God and the cosmos. The cosmos being the orderly arrangement of his creation, not what we now consider the universe to be, what we call the cosmos. Number 1. Elyon is the one and only God, who is the source of all things and exists separate from his creation, which is known as the cosmos, so that he is neither created nor does he consist of anything that has been created. I think I fairly well went over that before. A few days ago. Number 2. The cosmos is not made of atoms, but is animated by his will. That is manifest as the energy field of the Logos, or the Word, which is what we commonly call the energy, I say energy field of light. That I wouldn't say that. You need to take that out. It's just it is light, the ELF, not the ELF, the ELM, EMF range, that's what it is. Electromagnetic frequency range, EMF range of light. I don't know why I said energy field, that's not exactly accurate, but I guess I can go ahead and change it. I'll just go ahead and change that here to EMF range of light. Actually, I don't need to abbreviate. I'll just say electromagnetic, because light is not a field. Alright. The cosmos is not made of atoms, but it's animated by his will, that is manifest as the energy field of the Logos, or the Word, which is what we commonly call the electromagnetic frequency range of light. Which has also been called his spirit. Number 3. And of course the Spirit is part of the so-called Trinity. I'm sure I address that later. The reality projected into the empty shell of space is made of the interference patterns that result from the threefold nature of the Logos, which are electricity, magnetism, and sound, and includes that of the EMF spectrum, which is only one of the states of the Logos energy. So I'm saying all vibration of any kind is part of this Spirit of God, this manifesting energy. Number 4, the cosmos, which is the reality that is manifested in the universe, is arranged by an array of ascending and descending dimensions, all of which are divisions of the harmonic structure of the Logos, like radio and television stations, as it manifests God's will into the universal reality. Yes, I did mention this a bit. I didn't really go into that much detail on it, about the nature of the dimensions. There are, as far as I know, an infinite number of dimensions, arranged like radio stations on a dial, all contained within this, on the same Earth. Although I'm not exactly certain if the other dimensions have the same land masses or not. I do not know that answer. It could be either way. But they do, it is contained on the same globe, which is to say the same Earth, the same area, the same space. This is a geocentric model after all. The Earth rotates, but it does not move. Alright, number 5. The cosmos, being a product of the light, which is the Logos energy of God, is arranged in a harmonic structure comprised in a series of 12 spheres containing 12 octaves, each within 12 dimensions, similar to the harmonic arrangement known as the chromatic scale. Yes, honestly, this is a theory. I cannot say that that is exactly how it is. This is just me trying to arrange order into the vast number of dimensions. It's just assembling them together into groups of local dimensions versus dimensions that are much farther up or down the spectrum. So you have, for example, the octaves on a piano keyboard. Then I'm making an analogy between that and these certain local range of dimensions of 12. So then every set of 12, it raises in to another octave. But I do not know. I mean, an octave, obviously, in music doubles in frequency. So I do not know how far up the spectrum you have to go for such a comparison to be made. If it is 12 or not, I have really no clue what an octave would comprise of. It may well be the same as in the audible sound. It may be as simple as that. But there's also, there are 12 notes on a keyboard. You have the 7 white keys, you have the 5 black keys, adds up to 12. It is a chromatic scale. But it's 7 whole notes, and then it's got some fractions of notes there as the black keys. Actually, I forget now. I think B is like a half step. I can't remember. It's been a while since I've looked at it. There's one of them I think that's a half step, and the others are whole. But they just go by what sounds right to the human ear. It's how they have arranged that. That's why they're all slightly off. They're not evenly divided. You could divide it into whatever you wanted, but the thing is, it doesn't sound right to humans. It sounds off when you start tinkering around too much. They have devised this chromatic scale. Everything is slightly skewed to make it sound harmonious. If you just divide it evenly, it's too rigid and it doesn't work. It sounds off. So I would imagine something similar to be true with these, with the cosmoi, the cosmoses, these dimensions. Anyhow, number 6. The concepts that most people refer to as dimensions, being height, width, depth, and sometimes time, are not dimensions at all, but are in fact a set of coordinates used for locating places in space, and so are the same in each dimension. The Cartesian coordinates are the same in each dimension. Those are not dimensions, and I do not wish to call them that. It is a coordinate system. Height, width, depth, time if you want. Those 4 things are all the same in, actually I think time may be variable. Time would go faster the lower you go in the spectrum, and the higher the dimension in the spectrum, the slower time would be. That would be my guess. But the other 3 coordinates would be the same all the time. Number 7. God manifests himself within the cosmos as the created vehicle called Yahweh, which he uses as an avatar to interact with his creation and the beings therein. As such, he cannot move between all dimensions. And as such, he can move between all the dimensions at will and take part in activities there. Yes, what I'm getting at there is the so-called Merkaba field, which we are all intended to have naturally. We're supposed to have a natural Merkaba energy field around us. It would be our own personal UFO. Our Merkaba is the same thing as the tiny little silver UFOs people see. The silver ball UFOs, which are often seen in packs of multiple UFOs at once, all these little silver balls, 10 or 20 at once. Those are Merkabas, and they are personal vehicles that people use, beings use, to travel between dimensions. And what you have as what I refer to as the Hyoth is God's or Yahweh's personal Merkaba field. Which may or may not be what Ezekiel describes in the 1st chapter of Ezekiel. Although that may also be the Ark. It's hard to tell. I know it's the Ark in chapter 10. I'm not as certain in chapter 1, because he has other things going on. So it may also be the Hyoth it doesn't really matter. Because there are aspects of both in that chapter, so who knows what he's saying. Number 8. Christ is Yahweh when he is in the flesh, whether it is when he is born into this dimension or not, as he is God, merely assuming the form of the people in this dimension of his creation. I remember one time Jim telling a story about shepherds in the ancient world would actually put wool on their arms and basically dress as a sheep to be more like the sheep that were part of their flock, would gain their trust, and they would bond with them. The sheep would bond to the shepherd more readily by having wool on them. And that is equivalent to Christ becoming human for our benefit. Number 9. Each of our consciousnesses is a focal point in the cosmic Logos energy field, and our body is a physical representation of our spiritual energy field, with the DNA of our genetic code being an antenna to receive the Logos energy of light that animates it, which causes us to become aware of ourselves and our local dimension. That's actually a very concise way to say all of that. I like that sentence. I was struggling with it a bit yesterday, or whichever day it was. I was trying to describe how our DNA picks up the light and so on and so forth. And that says it much better than I did, I think, in that other video. Our body is a physical representation of our spiritual self, with the DNA of our genetic code being an antenna to receive the Logos energy of light that animates it. The breath of God given to Adam that caused him to be alive. The animating principle. Number 10. He has programmed everything from the beginning. God has designed the entirety of time and space so that every particle is always exactly where He intended to be at all times, which includes all of our thoughts, desires, and actions throughout our lives, with each one being a part of the whole. I did talk about that. Number 11. That's also called predeterminism. The Bible refers to predestination, but predestination can be limited. Predeterminism is, by definition, complete. Every snowflake hits the ground where God wants it to. Every raindrop, every leaf falls to the ground when God tells it to. Like it says in Job, he asked Job, he says to Job when he's questioning his his ways, this why me type attitude, he starts questioning God. And the last 2 chapters of Job, after he goes through everything, has God basically telling him, you're just a person and I'm God, and I do what I do because of that reason. And one of the things he says to him, he says, does the lightning ask you where to strike? So, according to Job, God tells every lightning strike where to hit. Of course, that would be an ancient view of it, since Zeus and several other, all of the storm gods are said to send the lightning when they get angry. But anyway, every particle, like it says right here, every particle is exactly where God wants it to be at the time. Or I believe I said something before about how every moment is a snapshot of the will of God at that time. The universe is always exactly what God wants it to be at that moment. That you cannot have anything but the will of God happening at any time. It just is His will. The cosmos, the creative force of the universe, is perpetually creating the will of God at that moment. It just is His will exactly at that time. So you cannot have anything that is not His will. He is doing everything that is in existence. He is creating it in this moment, perpetually, right now. It's like I said before, and I said the Shroud of Turin is a snapshot of the moment of creation. That is the beginning point. That's like the ripples in the water. That the Shroud of Turin, the resurrection of Christ, is the moment at the center where the drop hits the water, and then out from that comes the ripples of time, and that is everything that we have, that we experience in reality, is emanating from that source, that point. So it seems to be in perpetual motion, but it's not. It's analogous to the waves in the water. It's just rippling. We're not actually moving forward in time. It's waving. I'm thinking of like a flag. That statement about the flag. What's moving, the wind or the flag? When the flag is waving in the wind, which one is moving? So I'm thinking time. We think time is moving, but it's actually not. It's just waving in the wind. It's like the water with the ripples. Anyway, that's number 10. So number 11 is evil, and what the Bible considers to be an act of sin, is the slow, methodical, systematic destruction of anything that God has made, or using something in a manner contrary to what God has intended. Whether intentional or unintentional, regardless of the perceived importance of what is being deconstructed, destroyed, or otherwise compromised from being what it was intended to be and to be used for, which is the goal of our enemies. Well, that's all nice and wordy. I think I said it a bit better, a bit more concise the other day when I said it simply is entropy. But entropy is a physical force that is just happening on its own, whereas here I'm talking about actual intent to deconstruct it. Like termites eating away at the will of God. If God has set up anything God sets up, our enemies seek to destroy it, including ourselves. I think I said it better. I don't know if I mentioned it in the video or not, about I said it's like radiation in our bodies, or disease and illness. The earth, the cosmos, is diseased with this sin nature. Whatever causes the sin nature, it's like a disease that permeates reality. It spreads like a cancer from one dimension to the next. If you envision all the dimensions like cells in a body, this disease of degradation and decay infects each one, and then the beings there inhabit, inherit a sin nature, and that is what we are judged for, not the sin itself. We're judged for the sin, the nature that we are, the being that we are. So I don't know if I agree with how I'm saying this, but the Bible calls sin, this evil. Evil is something else, because that would be what is driving our enemies to destroy. It would be the same thing that causes us to do bad things as well. It's this sickness, this pervasive disease that is in us. But it permeates. It's in everything. It's like, that's why it's like radiation. It's like it's in the dirt. It's in the soil, the crops, the plants, animals, and it's in us. It's in everything. Everything is fallen. It's not just man. It's everything is evil, because it's not what God made it to be in the first place. It has become evil. It has become diseased, blighted. That's what Christ is for. Christ is the cure for that disease, for the cosmos. Anyhow, okay, and then we're on to the second part. Although I would think that I would have made that 12. Each part should be 12, but that was just 11. Part 2 is the axioms of the faith of torrefaction. Number 12. The Word of God, known as the Hagiographa, or the Bible, is not about religion or morality, but is rather about the nature of the reality of his cosmos as a whole, and the broken and corrupted nature of it, and of it being restored, as well as of us being rectified with it in time to become one with God. Again, that's very concise. I would not have. I like how I have arranged this. 13. But notice I say that we are also rectified with it. Everyone always talks about us being saved, but they don't talk about everything else being saved or rectified, made right with God. But everything will be restored, not just people. He's going to restore the whole thing. Basically start over again with his elect. But yeah. Number 13. Sin is not a set of personal actions against God, but is rather a spiritual and physical property of the contaminated world, meaning that all of the elements from which we are comprised themselves contain the contamination of what is called sin, and therefore every action taken is rooted in the state of sin which is called the sin nature. I like that the way I said that there. All of the elements from which we are comprised are themselves contaminated with the sin nature. It's in our very being. The contamination of the fallen world cannot therefore be of sinful actions, but is actually a genetic characteristic of the physical creatures on the planet, much the same as a cancer is to the body or radiation to the blood. I'm not sure why I equate radiation to the blood and cancer with the body. The contamination of the fallen world cannot therefore be of sinful actions. Yeah, because they say that the man fell because of sin. But in order to sin, you have to have already fallen. Number 15. Well, I say here it's because of the genetics that they caused us to fall. Number 15. The judgment of God is not against personal acts of sin. It is merely the purging of those things which are detrimental to the functions of the cosmos and of restoring defunct aspects of people. Restoring defunct aspects and people of the cosmos to their intended form, and as such is necessary for the continuance of life and the proper functions of the cosmos itself. Yes, what we see as judgment is like, it's really just him cleaning the house, if you want to be completely mundane about it. To us it is the world and our way of life, but to him it's just things run amok, and he has to set it back straight again in order. So we think it's judgment because he is destroying us, but that's not how he sees it at all. It's not what it looks like to him. If you see a growth, if you see mold growing on bread in your kitchen, you throw it out. It's not judgment. You just throw it out because you don't want mold in your kitchen. It is impersonal. It's just something you need to get rid of, and so you throw it out. And that is essentially what we have going on here, although we are alive and he's doing it for our benefit as well. So long as we are rectified and not part of the mold. Whatever was I on? Is it 14? Is sin is not a set of personal actions against God, but is rather a spiritual and physical property of the contaminated world, meaning that all of the elements from which we are comprised themselves contain the contamination of what is called sin. And therefore every action taken is rooted in the state of sin, which is called the sin nature. Yes, even trying to be good. I said this, I wasn't recording, but I did say this before, yesterday. Even trying to do good or to be good or to become saved is itself rooted in the sin nature. People would have a hard time believing that. But I already read that one. 14. The contamination of the fallen world cannot therefore be of sinful actions, but is actually a genetic characteristic of the physical creatures on the planet, much the same as the cancers of the body or the radiation to the blood. I already read that one as well. I don't know why I'm saying it's a genetic fall, though. Because you could say that that is the fall of man. And I do say that. But not everything on the earth was genetically tampered with. Not everything has genetics. The rocks do not have genetics. Water does not have genetics. But it has become contaminated. The judgment of God is not against personal acts of sin. It is merely the purging of those things which are detrimental to the functions of the cosmos. And I already read this one as well. Yikes. The degradation of the genetics of the creatures of the fallen world was caused by a race of extra-dimensional beings to cut the world off from the Logos energy of God and to use humanity as a slave race, more or less turning us into animals, which is the fallen man to begin with, mixing our animal blood into our DNA. The demons/aliens spliced primate DNA into our blood to sever our connection to God, which is the fall of man. That's what I just said. You could combine. I could just add 17 to the end of 16. That's the same thing. That should be the same axiom. 18. These beings in antiquity became both the gods of the ancient pantheons and the demons of monotheistic religions, as well as the aliens of the emergent religion of the UFO cults. I would say that's fairly obvious, but they are basically being deified as we speak, as the benefactors of the ignorant and backwards human race. They've come to help us, to stop us from our perpetual wars. I have heard that literally. It's like in Star Trek, they have the concept in Star Trek that you do not interfere with an alien race. You do not make first contact until that race has developed sufficiently to achieve warp drive. Once they achieve warp drive, then they are on basically the same level, same playing field, and so you can then interact with them. Until then, they're not supposed to interact with them. But I have heard people say that aliens came around us after World War II because of all of our atomic testing and our bombs, dropping our bombs, and so on and so forth. So they came and contacted us so that we would not annihilate ourselves with these damn weapons of war. So they're already being painted as our saviors right there. But they're not. They're not aliens from another world. They're demons from another dimension. And they're not here to help. 19. God created the Adamic race, which is the white race, in order to restore humanity. Notice this comes after the fall, which means the genetic degradation was done to humans before this. In the rendering I have it here. Before, in one of the videos before I was talking about it, I basically said God had the Nagas here. He had a covenant with them. They had their priest. They fell away, became reprobate. He made the white race, the Adamic race, and gave it to Adam as the Melchizedek there. But the Lucifer, the last Melchizedek of the Nagas, took Eve and had ransomed her back to Adam for his ownership of earth and his priesthood status. So Lucifer became, through manipulation, became the king of earth again, and they remain such to this day, until such a time, I'm told, as that contract wears out, however long it is, that the demons, the Nagas, will no longer have control over the planet. Christ will be able to return and reclaim it as his own. And after that, they then had the fall of man through the degradation of the genetic code, and they created the races from the white race. That's what I said the other day, along with all the other abominations and chimeras and monsters and everything that you hear about in the Greek myths and the Mesopotamian myths. But this is not what I was saying 5 years ago. I was saying that the black race was first, and that sort of thing was already going on. And then God put the Adamic race in to stop it. That's what I'm saying here. Really, I'm not exactly sure which came first. I just remember I sort of switched a few years ago, a couple of years ago, to putting the white race first. I don't think it really matters. They're both sufficiently far back. Number 20. Those who were said to be chosen of God and are called the elect in the Hagiographa, the Bible, were those who still retained the residual genetic markers that connect us to God and were therefore merely carriers of the contamination. In other words, we were immune. I don't know if I would call it carriers. I guess I can see why I said that, because we do still have it in us, the sin nature. However, we also realize that we have it and are immune to its effects to some degree. We're not immune to it in that we are perfect individuals, but we are immune to it in that we can still receive the energy from God, and we hear the voice, so to speak. We hear his word. And so it guides us. Other people just have no concept of it at all, and they're just out there acting like crazy people. People who retained these genetic markers became the bloodline of the Melchizedeks and Abraham, which the chosen lineage with whom God made his original covenant. The people who retained these genetic markers became the bloodline of the Melchizedeks and of Abraham, which the chosen lineage... I think I'm leaving some words out here. Which is the chosen lineage with whom God made his original covenant? I'm going to add a few extra words in there so it makes more sense. The people who retained these genetic markers became the bloodline of the Melchizedeks and of Abraham, which is the chosen lineage with whom God made his original covenant. The original covenant was with Adam. Then he made one with Noah, and then he made one with Abraham. And that was like the final version until Christ completed it. 22. The Melchizedek served as a link between God and the bloodline, which was the family of God, while the rest of the world was still considered to be genetically contaminated. Since all of the people in the lineage did not have the necessary genetic markers, they had to be atoned for by the act of sacrifice officiated by the Melchizedek at the time, using the blood of predetermined clean animals. Later God gave us the law to prevent the loss of the knowledge of the Melchizedek covenant by putting it into writing. 25. I said just the other day that I'm not so sure that the law is fully legitimate. I think it has been perverted to some degree, but the point, really the only point that matters is the act of atonement itself, which has survived. The record of it has survived. Like I said, it goes back to Adam anyway. So you really don't even need the Torah. It's not what it only condemns us. The Torah does not save us. It cannot save us. 25. The lineage of the kings in Israel continued the Melchizedek lineage. Again, you could just put this in with the previous one, as it just continue the sentence longer and add that phrase into it, and just attach that to the end of the previous one and use it as the same one. 26. It's continuing the same thought. Is what it's doing. So it belongs in the previous sentence. 26. God had to be present at the sacrifice to accept it, but as the Melchizedeks became kings and the kingdom was destroyed for rejecting God, then God departed and the sacrifice was no longer accepted. That is true. 586 was the time that happened. 586 BC, when Babylon came to take away Israel, people from Jerusalem, back to Babylon. They hid the ark in the caverns, but not only that, the presence of God also departed from the ark before they took it. So it was defunct anyway. There were actually fake arks that were made, replica arks that they took around to different places. The one they had in Ethiopia was one of these replicas. They had taken it down to Elephantine, and it's likely that they ended up making a replica and just using that in the they either had a replica made and used that when they came back and lived in Jerusalem again, or some say that they just left it empty, an empty room which is to say they did not even try to do the sacrifices legitimately because you had to throw the blood on it. And conversely, they could have made a replica and then done that, but it would not have been accepted legitimately anyway by God. It would have just been an act. But the fact remains, they did not have the ark, and without the ark you don't have salvation, you don't have atonement. Their whole religion is based around atonement. So after that point, the whole thing was a sham, a ruse, a lie, a con. That's also why you continue to have rabbis instead of them reverting back to priests. Number 27. God became a man, being born in the Melchizedek lineage, as Yeshua, to officiate the final sacrifice of atonement himself, using his own blood to cleanse all of the elect, both before and after, from their genetic contamination. Yes, well, like I said, it spreads in both directions in time. Creation does, from the point of resurrection. So the act of atonement would be the same. It would be part of, it would spread out with creation, same as everything else does, because it's part of it. Anyway, 28. Yahweh as Christ offered atonement for the lineage of Abraham. There again, I'm stating the obvious. But I'm saying that it's only the lineage of Abraham. 29. He could not be atoning for the whole world because the rest of the world was never part of the covenant in the first place. 30. Everyone that does not possess these genetic markers and is therefore spiritually dead must be purified in Gehenna in a manner of purification, recycling, to then be reborn, fully alive into the earth and the kingdom. This is back, I would say, in my universal phase, when I still thought everybody was going to be saved. Not saved from going to Gehenna. That's funny, I mentioned Gehenna here, but I have not defined yet what Gehenna is in this list. I need an axiom here saying what Gehenna is before I say we're going to go there, or people are going to be sent there. But anyway, this was the belief I had from about 2007, apparently up until at least 2016 when I made this, that everybody goes into Gehenna, and then after spending a certain amount of time there, when they are purified, refurbished, you might say, like sending a machine back to the factory, back to the company, and having them fix it for you. It's kind of like that, but it's more like recycling, really. Or you melt it back down, you get a bunch of plastic and you melt it down, or get a bunch of old jewelry or something and you melt it down and make new stuff out of it. That's really what it's like. It's just like recycling souls and making new ones. I'm not sure what a person will be like coming out the other side of that. It is a rough process, so who knows what they would be like. However, after, when I had already become a racist by then. I usually say I became one in 2014. So there for a time I was thinking that were still going to be in the kingdom even though they weren't white. But at some point I reverted to just saying, I already said up here that it's only for the lineage of Abraham. It can't be anybody else. However, technically speaking, anybody in the world could possibly, potentially be from the lineage of Abraham, because it's been, by what, 4,000 years, give or take, since that person existed. And who knows, only God knows whoever is related to that bloodline. Only God can keep that straight. So they could be anybody, to be perfectly honest. I'll have to come up with an explanation as to why it's the white race and no other race. You can get away with the bloodline part for a bit, but at the end of the day that doesn't really work. You need a better reason. I could say that white people, the genetics of the white race, are the only ones that can hold that marker, such as blue eyes or blonde hair or whatever, or being 12 feet tall. I guess that's what I would have to say. It's a genetic marker peculiar to the Caucasian race. The race of color. The other ones are all brown, so they don't have any color. Anyway, what number did I read? 31. Salvation is by His will, not ours, and it's based on certain hereditary genetic markers in our DNA. No activity you do will save you or make God change His mind. 32. We have to have faith and love to do the will of God, and those are only given through the Spirit, not through any active desire of our own. That's a bit esoteric. I'm not exactly sure why I have that on the list here. Faith and love. To do the will of God. I have in parentheses pistis and agape, which is what is translated as faith and love. Agape is covenant love. You do it out of obligation. Contractual bonding. To do the will of God, and those are only given through the Spirit, not through any act or desire of our own. I'm not sure this one needs to even be in this list. What am I even meaning by this? I know what I mean by it, but I no longer see how it matters. Maybe that's a bad sign. I don't know. For me, but I'm looking at this and this would not even come into my head. If I were typing this today, that would not even enter my mind. That we have to have faith and love to do the will of God. Technically that's true, but if we're doing the will of God, we have it anyway. If we are elect and we're doing what He wants, I mean, everybody does what He wants. Like I said, if you're elect, then you're going to have these things. It's axiomatic. It's de facto. It's part of the. It's like saying, are you baptized? Are you filled with the Spirit? You know, people, they make these These damn Christians today, it's like, oh, are you saved? Well, yes. Are you have you been baptized? Well, yes. Have you been filled with the Spirit? Well, sure, yeah. It's like, well, all those are the same thing. If you're elect, you're going to be filled with the Spirit. You're going to be baptized with the blood. It's just how it is. You can't be saved and not be baptized. Baptism is being saved. It's being stained with His blood. It's the same exact thing. And you're filled with the Spirit at the same time. It all goes together. But they try to make it like they're different acts. I think I might just take that out. I don't know. If I say it's not through any act or desire of our own, having faith and love, faithing and loving is an act. So you might say I'm negating my own statement by saying you have to have these, but your salvation's, you have to have these things and do these things to do the will of God. But they're only given to the Spirit, not through any act of our own. So how are you? Am I saying we have to do these things, but we can't do them through any act of our own? So I'm saying that you're. I'm saying a person is screwed, is what I'm saying, if they don't, if they're not elect. I guess is my point I'm trying to make. Because you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't. You have to have it, but you can't get it without Him giving it to you for you to have in the first place. So you're just out of luck if you don't. If you're not elect, there's no possible chance for you to do the will of God if you're not elect. However, I just said everything is the will of God at all times. So I'm not sure what I'm saying with this sentence here is a little bit. It's a little bit odd. Like I said, it wouldn't even enter my head to say something like this today. Because we do grow over time. I have grown and I have changed in the past 5 years. You know, I do have my belief system. It's pretty much the same as it was then, but not exactly the same. "33. In this way, everyone will be rectified to God in the coming eons, and live perpetually on the earth in the kingdom of Yeshua, the Messiah, who is Yahweh, for the duration of the foreseeable future." I don't know if I say it on here, but I could. If I took out 32, I would make that one 32, and then 33, I would say that in the foreseeable future, we will go off as an army of God into the other dimensions that have also been infected with this corruption, and then we fight the evil there in those dimensions, helping to free them. That is what he showed me, comparing it to Joshua taking over the cities, fighting the giants in Palestine. It'll give us something to do. Otherwise, we'll just be sitting around staring at the clouds or something. Alright, part 3. Axioms of the human condition. There's only 5 of them. 34. Everyone is given inalienable rights by God their Creator, which cannot be revoked by anyone on earth, including but not limited to governments, agencies, corporations, and spiritual entities. Well, that's rather legalistic sounding to me. kind of funny. It's including but not limited to. That's a, inalienable rights by God, their Creator, which cannot be revoked by anyone on earth, including but not limited to governments, agencies, corporations, and spiritual entities. I could include people in that. "35. Everyone has at least, everyone has, at some point in their life, relinquished at least some of these rights to governments, agencies, corporations, and spiritual entities, and as such have become spiritually bound to the dictates of those systems." That's an interesting take. I'm saying that we are betraying God by becoming spiritually bound. That is to say, covenant. We have made a covenant with the evil entities of this planet, whether knowingly or unknowingly. That's an interesting concept. And now we are bound by the dictates of those systems. God will always honor His contracts. He would expect us to do the same. So if we enter a contract apart from God with these evil entities, then I suppose we would sort of be on our own. At least concerning that matter. 36. The entire record of human history is the record of the enslavement, control, degeneration, and slow deconstruction of mankind from the spiritual to the physical, mental, emotional, personal, and finally genetic level. Actually, I think genetic was first, wasn't it? I should have put that first. But yes, they are destroying us in every which way they possibly can. And they don't understand that. When you go in, see, the thing is, you go back in history, they want to tell you that we came from apes and we got better over time through evolution, when in fact the opposite is true. We were better to begin with and we devolved over time, becoming worse and worse. They are the ones that are always working in the background to make us worse, to push us down and hold us down, keep us from bettering ourselves as a species, while claiming, of course, to be our benefactors. "37. This multifaceted deviation and degradation of mankind from God's original design of humanity, which has always been the goal of the Naga race, is what separates mankind from God, and is what has become known as original sin, which is what mankind must be restored from by God." Well, they basically already have said that in a different way. "38. The dynamic between how people are forced to make money, as well as how they subsequently base their lives on making money, combined with how women choose their mates, based on societal normality is the source of all internal problems with the human condition. Social or societal as a normality. Women choose their mates based on societal normality. I would say social hierarchy, power, status. The demons control the rich and powerful people, the kings, the billionaires, the people who own the global corporations. They're all occultists trying to become gods by worshiping demons. The demons control them. They control us by making us use money, the money that they give us, by working for them, doing what they want us to do. They control women through culture, what they call culture. And it's very similar. I've said before how they are controlling black people through weaponized rap music, which became their culture, even though it's destroying them like poison. They think of it as being what their culture is. They identify with it, which is to say they identify with their own destruction. But that's no different than women identifying with fashion and I don't know, daytime soap operas on TV, all the junk, whatever kind of junk women are into at the time. It's all part of that same mindset of, I belong to this system, I have to do these things. That is bondage. And it's no different than the blacks are bound to their idiocy. Men going and working, slaving away, working for the factory, working for the company for decades. In their mind, they have to do that. They're a good citizen, they're a good husband, they're a good father, they got to make the money, so they're bound to slaving their lives away. Alright, well, part 4, Axioms of Life and Order. "39. There is the one sole supreme creator God, which is not Lucifer." Yeah, well, the Luciferians get away with that. The witches, the occultists. They can say God because, you know, they mean their God. And you assume that they mean your God. But they just say, you know, a nameless God. They never say Jesus. They never name the God they serve. It's just some God somewhere. No one suspects. Well, gee whiz, it may be our good old Lucifer there. So, there is one sole supreme creator God, which is not Lucifer, the God of the witches, or Allah, the God of the Muslims. There is no Allah, it's just Marduk that has been renamed. They more or less worship the moon, if you want to be honest about it. Or even Muhammad, as a cult of Muhammad worship. In fact, it used to be called that, Mohammedism. So it is not Allah, the God of the Muslims, which are the same thing And what am I saying? Lucifer and Allah are the same thing. And this Creator God should never be forgotten or denied. I don't know. That's a little bit wordy. Clearly, obviously, I've already said I'm equating it to Jesus, so it can't be any other God. Why is this so far down the list instead of this should be at the top? I'm not sure I would have this one in there. If I did have this one there, I would put it in the first section now. 40. Every natural thing has value and should be preserved, but the Nagas only seek their destruction and decay. And we should seek to preserve these things, fighting against the decay of the earth, humanity, life, and society. Well, like I said, it is destruction, it is decay, it is entropy, or the second law of thermodynamics, you could say. It's just a process of decay. It's like the mold, like I said before. You keep your house clean. You do not let the mold grow. We are intended to keep the earth as custodians and not let it fall apart. We're supposed to keep order, is what it is. They are agents of chaos. We are agents of order. We keep the order. They cause chaos. It's just we are diametrically opposed. So they are destroying the work of God. We should be preserving the work of God. Which is to say, fighting against, for example, the homosexual agenda or transgender agenda, or anything, the pedophile agenda, global warming agenda. We should be fighting against all these things just because they are fighting against us. So we don't fight back, we will lose. It's as simple as that. (41) Morality is not about religion or faith, and likewise neither is religion and faith about morality. Christianity is not about morality. 42. Morality should be kept as far as conscience is concerned, but the keeping of moral codes will never gain anyone any salvation or redemption, and the absence of morality is only a symptom of the fallen world, not the cause of the fallen world. Although, to be fair, if you tell people that they don't have to be good to be saved, to gain favor in the eyes of God, then if they believe that there's no hope for them to be saved in the first place, then they're not going to give a shit, they're not going to care to begin with. So, the idea that being a good person is desirable, I suppose, should be in your religion somewhere. But to be perfectly honest, it's not going to help anybody. Not where God is concerned. It skips over 43 here. So I have it misnumbered. 44. All religious observance is either pagan or obsolete. No baptism, communion, mass, sacraments, holidays, or anything else is necessary. Such things are against God. Yeah, none of that's going to help anybody. It's just cultural cultural bullshit, traditions people do because they like to do them. Kids like Christmas because they get things. Adults like Christmas because they used to be kids and they remember, and it just has a nostalgic feel for them to have Christmas stuff around. It's the Christmas time, and they like seeing their kids when they have them. They like making them happy. So it's a thing, but it's just a cultural thing. Same as Halloween, same as Easter, same as even just regular government holidays like 4th of July or something. These are just, Labor Day or whatever. These are just government holidays. They don't actually mean anything. No day should be placed above any other day. Not our own birthday or any other day. "45. There should not be any religious observances of any feast, festival, or holy days throughout the year, as these are all borrowed from the pagan calendars developed by the witches and cult priests in antiquity. This includes not only all holidays of pagan religions, but also those of the monotheistic religions." God did put holidays or festivals of a kind into the Bible, into the Torah. If you want to say he made the Torah, he put in the 7 festivals of the Hebrew calendar, which they use the Babylonian calendar. It's so stupid. Why they don't just use the original Hebrew calendar? They went to Babylon for 70 years, and so now they've been using the Babylonian calendar for the past 2,500 years. It's like, give me a break. Just go back to your original calendar. But they use the lunar calendar with the Babylonian month names, but they keep the Hebrew festivals, which are 7 of them originally, but they've added 2 in since then that they keep, main ones. But basically they follow the crop cycle. They all follow the crop cycle except for, well, the New Year is based off of the, basically it's based off the fall equinox. And then there is the Day of Atonement, which is a sacrifice. Those 2 are separate. The other 5 are more or less based off the crop cycle. And then you've got the other 2 is they wouldn't say that though. They wouldn't say that, but I'm pretty sure that it is. They have one that's basically based off the Easter, same as Easter, Ostara, the spring equinox. Then they have one that's, what is it? It's like, they have Passover, then they have the one that's 50 days after Passover. The I forget what it's called. I want to say Feast of Booths or Tabernacle. But anyway, then they added in Hanukkah and some other one. I forget what the other one is that they added in. The only one worth a damn is the Day of Atonement. The rest are just symbolic, meant to show you the time scale of God in terms of His cosmic plan, more or less, for salvation and redemption. $46. The people of God have always been enemies of the state. Since the enemies of God have always been in control of the world system, which means that if you are a person of God, then you will be an enemy of the state, an outlaw by default. You don't have to be. I don't think I would say that. You could very likely be. But I don't think you actually have to be that. As I am not currently an enemy of the state. But ideologically we are. Because we know the whole thing is evil. And we basically hate it. But an enemy of the state is about, I don't know, that carries the idea of actually being actively against it, going to shoot up a building or something, or blow something up, or some kind of craziness like that. And that is not what we are as Christians, as elect, would be about. But neither are we above being put in prison or whatever else they may do to us. I mean, there have been plenty of elect people that have killed people and have been put into prison for it or whatever. There is something about the elect where they usually have strange lives. Lives that are not normal, per se. Lives that are strange enough that it causes them to just be on a different path. And then at some point they hear the truth and they wake up. Something snaps them out of the daze of being a normal average person, and they become they realize that they are an elect individual. Something about there's just something about us that a lot of elect people, I would say the majority, are just have lives that are not exactly inside the box of normality. Then again, how do you really know what normal lives are? Because everybody has a life, and they have their own experience of existence here. I just know that the elect people, when you talk to them, they will have always felt separated. Just sort of in the back of their mind, they just feel different, set apart. And then that way, when they hear this truth about the separation from the world and being called out an elect of God, they identify with that, they gravitate to it. Number 47. Everyone should take it upon themselves to research, read, and learn what they can about all these things that God has made all of these things. I don't have any, I've typed this out, I don't have any punctuation in here. I don't know why I did that, but some of these are hard to read. Everyone should take it upon themselves to research, read, and learn what they can about all things that they can, As God has made all of these things, either directly himself or indirectly by man, so that all things pertain to his design. I don't know what I'm even saying there. That's a bit odd. Everyone should take it upon themselves to research, read, and learn what they can about all things. As God has made all of these things either directly himself or indirectly by man, so that all things pertain to his design. Yeah, so I remember, I know what I'm saying there. Everything is relevant to the study of God. I never wanted to study the Bible. I wanted to learn about God. The Bible is part of that. But everything, and he made the universe. Everything that is part of his creation. So really, the study of God is the study of everything that exists to some degree. And what you might call a search for the evidence of design. There are patterns. There's a certain beauty to everything. There is an evidence for design, if people care to find it. Number 48. Everyone should treat people how they would want to be treated themselves, and not treat people the way they would not want to be treated. Otherwise, we would become as animals, or we do become as animals. They can only react to our environment. Well, that's basically the golden rule there, isn't it? Do unto others what you'd have them do unto you. Or the inverse of that. Don't do unto others what you don't want them doing to you. I have a section here starting on the next. I have another section, number 5, axioms of human interaction, but I don't have any listed there. I do have another one with a similar list. Everyone should leave one day a week open to fast and not eat anything to allow the body to process the food from the prior week, much the same as we would leave a crop field fallow. Otherwise the body does not have time to process the waste, and it will accumulate in the intestines, causing all manner of problems. Well, I guess that's good advice. Alright, let's see, I've got another list here. The creator God is Elion, who made the cosmos. Yahweh is his avatar inside the cosmos. Christ is Yahweh when he is in the flesh. He has programmed everything from the beginning. The demons/aliens spliced primate DNA into our blood to sever our connection to God, which is the fall of man. I think that was pretty much verbatim what I read before. The Adamic race is the white race made to restore humanity. God then made a covenant with the Melchizedek Abrahamic lineage, giving us the process by which we can restore humanity. Later, God gave us the law to prevent the loss of the knowledge of the Melchizedek covenant by putting it into writing. The lineage of kings in Israel continued the Melchizedek lineage. These are all straight from what I've just read. Yahweh as Christ offered atonement for the lineage of Abraham. He could not be atoning for the whole world because the rest of the world was never part of the covenant in the first place. Salvation is by his will, not ours, and is based on certain hereditary genetic markers in our DNA. No activity you do will save you or make God change his mind. I wrote this one again. We have to have faith and love to do the will of God, and those are only given through the Spirit, not through any act or desire of our own. All religious observance is either pagan or obsolete. No baptism, communion, mass, sacraments, holidays, or anything else is necessary. Such things are against God. A person trying to save themselves is against God. Is the Bible about morality? No. Every culture has always had morality independent of having contact with the Bible or any knowledge of Christ. They did not have many pagan practices, but they also had a legal code and an understanding of ethics. To try to argue that the Bible promotes a superior morality than a culture already has is missing the point. The point is that God made a covenant with a people which not only did not include everyone in the world, then or now, it also excluded everyone from it that was not in the lineage of Abraham. The Bible cannot be about morality, as every other religion promotes a similar system of ideas concerning behavior, and to reduce the Bible to a simple moral code is to reduce it to the level of other religions. Telling people what to do and what not to do. People using the Bible as a book for morality are being misled. You can't use it as a book for morality unless you just read the New Testament. Is the Bible about history? No. Not only was people's idea of history different at the time, being roughly equivalent to the time period of the Iliad and the Odyssey, they could not have possibly known every detail of the lives of these early personas. How, for example, can we be expected to believe that someone somehow knew every sentence by Job and his 3 friends during his trials? Job, the oldest book. Job is the oldest book, I suppose, and is obviously not intended to be taken as historical fact, but is of course a religious allegory. And the same with every sentence spoken by Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, Moses, Saul, David, and Solomon, etc. God reveals truths to his people through spiritual insight. He does not download the history of the planet into a person's head. This should be clearly obvious to anybody reading the Bible. When you have Abraham going on and on, talking all of this crap, I don't see how anybody can believe that somebody 500 or 1,000 years after the fact can write about Abraham and Isaac and Jacob talking and having conversations, and such like for Lot, for example, or really anybody. Moses from 1400 BC, they didn't even write it until 1,000 years later, or 800 years later, whatever. And yet they know every conversation he had in his entire life up until the point. Moses' life is detailed from the point he was born to the point he died. They have his whole life chronicled, basically. It starts with him as a baby, goes all the way from there to him dying, looking over Jordan at the promised land, because he couldn't go into the promised land because he pissed God off by hitting a rock in anger. Instead of speaking to the rock, he hit it with his staff, and then because of that, well, can't make it in. So he was buried by God in a place no one could find, overlooking Israel. God can be offended. I think I have done it a couple of times. So I can certainly see that Moses, dealing with all of these damn griping people all the time, and especially as he's getting on in years and doesn't quite feel like fucking dealing with these people and their damn problems, I can see how he might get a little bit grumpy. And maybe he took it out on God one day, and maybe God didn't like it. So there was a bit of a separation between them. You know, you take things out on the people you love. Anyway, he doesn't give you a revelation. He shows you what he shows you, but he does not just download every conversation that somebody had from 500 years ago so you can write about it. That's just not how it works. Is the Bible about doctrines and dogma? No. The Bible is not about doctrines and dogma simply because the people who wrote the Bible did not believe the doctrines that were later developed by those who used the Bible. The people who wrote the Torah didn't believe the people who wrote, the people who read the Torah and did it, 500 years later wrote the prophets, the prophetic books and the poet books, and they believed the Torah. But the people that wrote the Torah didn't believe it. They did not believe what the later tradition was about it. And then in the New Testament came, they were reading the law and the prophets, and they didn't believe what the prophets did, because a tradition had been built up around the prophets by that time about what it was supposed to mean. And so they had a whole different outlook in the New Testament time about the Old Testament than they did when they wrote it. And so they wrote the New Testament in that context. But then there was later dogma and opinions and tradition built up around the New Testament church in the ensuing centuries and the emerging Catholic Church. And so it just keeps changing over time, and erroneous crap keeps getting built up on top of the old crap, and it just keeps getting more wrong. And that's just kind of funny how that works. The Word of God is written on our hearts, and that is what we have to follow. Not the traditions of man. God, that'll kill us all. You follow these flippin' preachers and these priests, everybody will die by the hand of God. The Torah was written first, and then came the oral traditions of the rabbis, which became the Targum and the Talmud and the modern Judaism. They said their words superseded the original law of Moses, hence the rabbinical Judaism. The religion of the Hebrews ceased after their return from Babylon, which is when the synagogues started, which is where the idea for churches came from later. The Catholic Church was simply the Roman government starting Christianity, being the state religion, where the emperor was the head of the church and the vicar of Christ, which the Pope is still called to this day. The Pope came from a persona in Rome, an office, a religious office, the head of the Roman cults, which they call the Pontifex Maximus. This was overtaken by the Pope, the papacy. Is the Bible about the Jews? No. I don't have anything written. I just say no. I had topics written here, but I did not fill them in. Is the Bible about prophecy? No. The Bible is about covenant and blood. The Bible is about the lineage of the Melchizedeks. The Bible is about atonement. And rectification. It is about covenant and blood. It is about the lineage of the Melchizedeks, and it is about atonement and rectification. I would need to fill that in a little bit more fully. But I believe I have already spoken about these matters. But I like that I had this typed up already, the Statement of Faith from 2016, which is a little bit different now than it was 5 years ago, but it's a good place to start. That's all you have to know. That's all any of us have to know. Evil entered this dimension. Entropy ensued. God put the white race here, the Adamic race. That too was subverted. Adam gave away his position as king of the planet to the demons. So that's the fall of man. Our DNA was twisted into what we are now. So we have contaminated blood. It separates us from God. We become a slave race for the demons. Property owned by them, they create the different races to show who owns them. So he selects a lineage of people, starting with Abraham. He makes a covenant with them of how to rectify the situation. He gives them a law, which they think is how they're going to rectify it, even though there is the promise of some nebulous Messiah to come up ahead. And they don't even realize that he is the solution. They just see him as a king, an earthly king. When he shows up, he claims that he is the solution. And they say it's blasphemous. End up killing him basically because he was saying he was God. Thus fulfilling the prophecy. And allowing him to atone for people, to officiate that sacrifice, as per the covenant he made with Abraham, something like 2,000 years before. I said it's about, it's like we have a disease in us. This world, the cosmos, has a disease in it. And his death, his atonement, is the only way to heal that disease. We have it in us. And I said at one point, I said it was like getting an injection of a serum or a vaccine or an antidote. To heal us from the disease. Or it's like getting a blood transfusion or an infusion of his blood. It's a pure blood versus our contaminated blood. So you get a blood transfusion. It's a baptism is what that is. It's like a blood transfusion. That is a baptism. His blood is the only thing that will save us. Nothing else. Zero. You have to have it. It's a blood on the door. If you don't have it on your door, the angel of death will come in. Just like in Exodus. That's what the Passover was all about. It commemorates that time in which they had to put the blood on the door. right into the sun. Well, alright. I guess that's it for now. I will catch you later. Until then, take it easy.